Hello, this is Garvin, SVP of Talent Insights for the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. Today we're going to have a conversation with our Alliance Young Professionals. We actually have 3 members of our YP board. We have our chair, Brad Brogdon, who is Associate Architect for Gensler. We also have our Vice Chair, Michalina Antahadis, who's our Vice Chair, but also was serving as Venue Sales Manager for the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. And we have Christopher Smith, who was joined as an at-large member of our board. He's a middle market banking vice president with JP Morgan Chase. Our young professionals is really a way of providing a leadership and professional development opportunities for those in the 21 to 39 year demographic in the Charlotte region. We provide relationship building and networking opportunities, as well as civic engagement and community service opportunities for those who want to get more involved and connect to causes that align with their passion. Of course, we've entered this new chapter where relationship building and networking looks a little bit different. So we're exploring that in terms of virtual and digital opportunities. As we get started, really wanted to hear from you all. We're about 1 month in, maybe a little bit more, when it comes to this new current reality of sheltering in place and working from home. Although I want to mention that there are some who are still reporting to physical locations, whether they work in healthcare, whether they're in the service industry, those who are in law enforcement. So we definitely want to thank those who are putting themselves in harm's way, who are still going out and making a difference in serving others. But for a large percentage of us, those who can work from home and from remote locations are doing so. So want to open it up, starting with you, Brad. You know, how has this transition been going for you? How is working and living in the COVID-19 environment?
Yeah, thanks, Rod, for having us. Excited to talk about this topic. Candidly, I'll say I've probably had the capacity to work from home. As you mentioned, I'm an architect. I've been able to work virtually since I started at Gensler 6 years ago. So I think from a toolkit perspective, not much has changed relative to what I'm able to do. I would say the thing that's been the most hard for me personally is the work-life balance piece has actually shifted even further in the wrong direction, because now I'm so much closer to my computer all the time. And so if the office is 8 feet away instead of 8 miles away, I have a harder time disconnecting. So being very intentional, about spending time with my wife and my new work colleague, my dog that I get to work with on a daily basis, is becoming important for me to make sure I'm doing that deliberately. So that's probably the biggest challenge that I've had, is turning the switch on and off between when work starts and stops.
That's funny, Brad, because
I can completely relate. Go ahead, Michalina.
I was just going to jump in and say it's funny because I have the opposite. As a salesperson, my lines of work-life balance are usually a little blurry. So that has probably worked in my benefit, but I'm finding that I'm really leveraging pre-existing relationships more than ever with my clients, organizations that I'm involved with, and all of my networks. I'm one of those connector type people. So making sure that I'm there for those around me and finding ways to reach out has been a big priority.
That's great. Christopher, how's this working for you?
You know, for me, it's been a bit refreshing, honestly. Now, granted, I think I must mention the global pandemic, the global angst, the global question that we don't really know what's going on and when it's going to end. That is still a bit nerve-wracking. But for me personally, if I think about what my day-to-day is, constantly moving in and out of the office, early morning, late night, and like Michalina said, it is definitely a blurred line between work and life. This allowed me to have an awkward peacefulness to my day. So I know that I'm not going anywhere. So when the question comes up to what does my evening look like, it looks like much of everyone else's around the country, in that I'll be here, and that's just what it will be. So I enjoy it. I think it's peaceful from that perspective. I feel empowered because now I know how to utilize the tools offsite. And once I can balance that piece and I can effectively nurture my day, and I can be impactful and engaging in a corporate setting, but also be here for my family during this, again, question mark time frame. for me, it's been a bit more peaceful than I think I thought it would have been.
That's great perspective. I think you all can agree. The past few weeks to a month have been some of the most labor-intensive days you've probably had in your career, if you can relate to me. There's studies that show that productivity actually increases when individuals work from home because it is harder to unplug. It's harder to delineate between work and life. I don't know if you all heard my 4-year-old Ruby Joy in the background, but that's another challenge. I call it parenting while working or working while parenting, depending on what the day is. So that's all a part of our new reality. Something else I wanted to get your thoughts around, given that you all are all working in different industries, you've got unique perspectives on how our economy is being impacted. Brad, you touched on it in terms of, the world of architecture, and we see this in professional services. The technology infrastructure has been there for a while. Remote working has been there to a certain extent, but what are you seeing as some opportunities and challenges given the current landscape? How is this impacting your day-to-day work?
It's interesting, Rod. Maybe a couple sides to answer that question. But because Gensler is a global company and we do have offices in China and overseas, we probably were teed up maybe a few weeks before some other companies who are nationally or regionally based. So I think we got a head start relative to a new sort of infrastructure perspective and things like that helped us. But what's really changed is there are so much of what I do still has to be on site. Site walks, field verification, ongoing construction projects. And so I think, if anything, what we've done is catapulted our industry maybe forwards by necessity a couple of years relative to new software deployment, talking to clients, talking to general contractors in different ways. And so we'll call it FaceTiming of maybe the 22nd century, not the 21st, but where we're having other people get measurements or talk through potential issues on site that would always typically be, hey, yeah, I can be there in 2 weeks. We can look at it then. That doesn't really exist anymore. And so, or today. And I think our firm, like a client side, are probably communicating even better than we used to because we don't have a choice. So if that makes sense, I think if I'm silver lining things here, I'll say that it's making people be more thoughtful about communication and problem solving in our industry.
That's a great perspective, and I think those lessons will have to translate across industries if organizations and companies are going to survive and become even stronger during the pandemic, and even hopefully when this is behind us to a certain extent. Michelina has mentioned you're with the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority, representing the hospitality and tourism industry here in Charlotte, one of our strong partners. What's your perspective? We know that hospitality and tourism, the service industry, is being impacted in an extraordinary way. Some of the greatest pain points have occurred in this part of our economy. What's most important for us to know from where you sit?
Yeah, Rod, you nailed it. As you're seeing in the news, all of tourism and hospitality has been and continues to be hit hard daily by this. And it just simply underscores the importance of the industry to the whole region's economy, not just Charlotte, but beyond in all of our supported counties. The CRVA is responsible for tourism marketing for the Charlotte region, and we've crafted some great supporting resources on charlottesgotalot.com. So I encourage everybody to check out those, especially our pitch in and take out campaign for local and regional restaurants who are still offering service for pickup and to go.
And our household has been big supporters of pitch in and take out. We're taking advantage of that at least 3 to 4 times a week, if not more. So I'm happy to support in that effort. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Christopher, financial services and banking is also being stretched. That part of the economy is under a lot of pressure right now as you try to respond to the needs of consumers, both individual as business. You work in that middle market space where companies are really getting squeezed, are small and medium-sized businesses. How are you serving your clients now? How are you trying to address the concerns that they have?
I think ultimately, I can't speak for the firm in general, right, or the industry in general, but I think the ones that are doing the best are listening and being there. Because so frequently, when we're trying to develop business, we always want to say, hey, look, let's talk, let's court. How can I support you? I will always be here. But in some cases, when times get a bit more tumultuous, it's challenging. So this is where we as a financial industry, as a financial services, we can step up and really support our clients and be there as maybe not a saving grace in all cases, but a true resource. So luckily, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the PPP program, the SBA, they had a lot of pluses to that program. A lot of companies are able to take advantage of that and continue to feed our neighbors and to keep our neighbors in such a strong place. But I think when I think around and across the industry, the best thing that we can do, what I'm doing now, is having candid conversation, being there, being receptive, and being engaging at all levels, and not just being there for the easy conversations. In some cases, it's not as such.
That's a great perspective. It takes a personal touch. It's not the standard formula, right, in terms of how you manage relationships, but the human factor, the empathy is more important than ever. And then we know business will take care of itself, as we relate to people on a human level while we put the needs of our customers and clients first. I mentioned that, we're, having to manage our programs and events a little bit differently. We will have a virtual Young Professionals Luncheon coming up soon. Our topic is Crushing COVID-19, Making the New Normal Work for You. You can register for that program now, and hopefully we'll be able to make it available afterwards as well. Make sure you go to charlotteregion.com. You can subscribe to our communications, check the Young Professionals box to get more information. As we wrap up, wanted to give you all just an opportunity to share a final word. It could be a word of encouragement, a word of advice to your fellow young professionals as we move forward. Whoever wants to start can jump in.
Sure, I'll start. We can go in the same order if that makes sense. But I tend to be a glass half full kind of guy, Rod. So I have to say, and you guys know this about me, but it's an ugly thing we're in the middle of, and I think everybody knows that. But one thing that always seems to make me feel better, maybe about the human condition, is how well community comes together in times of crisis. And I think we've all seen that in each of our industries. And so I think lending a helping hand, whether it's to someone personally or professionally, we're quite literally all in the same boat. And I think we can come out in a much better place if we're looking out for one another.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of those same things, and just stay focused on the positive. Don't let the news get you down. There's plenty of wonderful things happening out there. And so focus in and zone in on those and share them, and then practice gratitude. So find appreciation for even just the small things.
I think in the season of a young professional, we're in an interesting perspective, because some of us may have seen the Great Recession as either a barrier to getting into our professional careers. And for some of us, it could be strike two for us on, man, it hit us again. But I think we can't forget that there's a sense of resiliency that we have to build within ourselves. Yeah. This is very tragic for families and communities around the world. But if we can take advantage of, again, the awkward peacefulness, if we can take advantage of the pause and the calmness to help propel us mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all these different facets of our lives, I think we can find a way to find triumph in this small pause in the normal day to day.
That's good.
Well said. Well said. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for your leadership. You all know how much I enjoy working with you. As those who know me know that I've aged out of the young professional demographic some time ago, but you all helped me stay young, and I appreciate it. So take care and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, Rod. Appreciate it.
Thank you.